Well, have we got some craziness coming up here? Apparently, according to an old report, Russia could be missing a lot of nuclear weapons after the collapse of the Soviet Union. My name's Tom. I'm reporting with the Daily Beltway. If it's your first time here or if you're a returning person, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell so you can stay up to date on all the latest breaking news. Well, turns out it wasn't Vladimir Putin's fault, but it was the collapse of the Soviet Union and all the craziness going on. If you've ever seen Lord of War, and the movie with Nicolas Cage, and he's an arms dealer and he's traveling around the world and he's got like planes and tanks and all these other crazy cool things, and he's selling all those arms. And that's essentially what they're talking about, is that after the collapse of the Soviet Union, there was no accountability because they were transitioning between governments. And they say in that scuttlebutt that happened afterwards that up to 100 suitcase nuclear weapons went missing. And there was all these reports and all this craziness, and official Russian people are saying that that's not true. But we do have an article here that I wanted to bring up and show you guys. I mean, especially with the way the world's going right now, and Vladimir Putin's just looking for an excuse to pop one off and maybe blame it on Belarus and say, oh no, it was really Belarus's fault that they dropped a nuke, or even though they're pumping all those troops in there. And you know, these people are these globalists are really just pushing for this nuclear war. So I'm going to read from an acronym UK archived report from, I believe this is in somewhere in the late 90s, early 2000s, but it's very relevant for today because anytime you like, if you go on Google and you try to Google Russia missing nukes, it's going to be a missing nuclear submarine that they talk about. You go through any of the articles, all the old articles from the 90s were scrubbed, early 2000s were scrubbed. I remember seeing a TV report on this in the early 2008, and they brought it back up again when Obama was president, and it was all super relevant, but I could not find any of those. And I specifically remember CNN, MSNBC, even Fox and the other people having a massive field day about missing nuclear weapons when the Crimea stuff happened. And it's nowhere to be found right now. So again, reading from an old archived UK thing. I'm going to pop it up here on the screen so you guys can kind of see where it's going. It's acronym.org.uk, and it's an archived report. It says, Disarmament Diplomacy, issue number 19. In late September, Alexander Lebed, Russia's former chief of national security, repeated his assertion, first made earlier in the month, that Russia may have lost up to 100 one-kiloton suitcase-sized nuclear bombs. That 1 kiloton is still bigger than Hiroshima or Nagasaki. I think those were 100 megatons. Please correct me in the comments because I'm just going off memory, like 100 megatons, 200 megatons in that place. Kiloton is bigger than a megaton. So it's just wild that they lost up to 100 of these. I mean, those could be floating around wherever. I mean, they make movies about missing Russian nuclear bombs, but it's incredible that there's no articles about that except for a couple things like this. So he said that they're missing up to 101 kiloton sized suitcase-sized nuclear bombs. Speaking in Tokyo on September 22nd, Lebed said that despite the unequivocal denials of his claim by authorities, the problem still exists. Unfortunately, he added, some people chose to protect their name or laugh off the issue. He repeated his view of the gravity of the situation. These are ideal weapons to conduct nuclear terrorism. We must seriously look for them, or else humankind cannot rest in peace. Makes absolute sense. I mean, especially with all the craziness going on right now. It could just be like, oh, it was a rogue state, or it was a militia group, or something out, you know, a paramilitary group that was not directly associated with the Russians happened to have one of these, and one of the guys went on a tangent and popped one off in Kiev or wherever. And then we've got the biggest international disaster in history. Lebed revealed that he was investigating the matter when he was dismissed by President Yeltsin October 1996. This was corroborated by another former official Vladimir Denisov. I'm not good with pronouncing Russian names, but I'm going to try my best, who told the Interfax news agency on 22 September that he had headed an investigation team. According to Denisov, no missing weapons had been reported, but just like in Lord of War and all, I mean, it's a thing. I mean, there's like tanks and all these other things that are just sold on the black market every single day, and those aren't missing according to actual sources, but come on. I mean, seriously, everybody knows that it's a thing. Go watch, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch Lord of War, Google it for 5 seconds. All the crazy amounts of Russian military gear that was sold off after the collapse of the Soviet Union. It was a freaking field day. Okay, so sorry about that. Back to it. According to Denisov, no missing weapons had been reported, but the investigation was incomplete. In particular, not having yet covered the Baltic States, Ukraine, or Georgia. Ukraine, when it was terminated. Also, on 22nd September, Alexander Yablokov, former advisor to the president on environmental issues, made clear that the weapon Lebed referred to had been produced, though he did not say he agreed to some that some might be missing. Speaking on the NTV television channel, Yablokov stated, "I talked to those who did those bombs, and I know that they exist." He also had earlier made this claim in a letter dated 9 September in the weekly newspaper Novaya Gazeta that the statement by Alexander concerning suitcase with nuclear bombs is definitely not groundless. In Washington on October 3rd, Yablokov again stated that the suitcase-sized bombs did exist, addressing the U.S. House of Representatives Military Research and Development Subcommittee. I mean, the United States has those. The United States has nuclear weapons that they can load them inside of like actual artillery cartridges, and I think they called them Frogger bombs. They would just launch them out there, and they would like hit like lily pads skipping over, and they would blow things up with literal nuclear munitions out of artillery. It's the same thing that the Russians have. But then those same shell-sized casings would fit inside of a suitcase. If you guys look at the thumbnail here, same type thing. I mean, nuclear bombs, even though they're dangerous, inherently they're not too complicated to build. Once you get into some of those things, I remember in college we were going through, especially in like physics and particles and everything else, and like the basic concept behind that. It's just pretty scary and pretty insane that these things are floating around. I mean, why is the internet scrubbed of all these things as well? I mean, it's possible that that this guy's report could have been just something he was trying to get, citizenship inside of the United States, and that's what brought it around. This on armscontrol.org. It says Act 1997 through 2009. It says the continuing debate over Russia's command and control of its nuclear arsenal intensified on September 7, retired General Alexander Lebed, former secretary of the Russian Security Council, told CBS News 60 Minutes that he believes more than 100 suitcase-sized nuclear weapons are unaccounted for. They pretty much reiterate exactly what we were talking about. It says, although lacking in many specific details, Lebed told 60 Minutes that the 1-kiloton weapon was once assigned to the Spetsnaz special forces of the former Soviet Union, are especially dangerous because they can be transported and detonated by a single person. Made in the form of a suitcase, he said these devices are not protected by launch codes. It could be prepared in approximately 30 minutes, potentially killing 50,000 to 100,000 people if detonated in a large city. Lebed said he attempted to make an inventory of the weapons while he was Security Council Secretary, but was unable to complete it before being fired by President Boris Yeltsin, which is, again, something we just reiterated a little bit ago. But this is, again, a second thing that's corroborating the other source. But then later in this article, they also go out and state that, the Russian military firmly denies that any missing nukes have happened. But, I mean, again, it's Russia. It's Putin. It's those guys. Are they going to be honest with us? I mean, especially nowadays. I mean, the southern border and things have been coming across, and there's a lot of craziness that, especially over the last 20, 30 years, that the government and the news and other people have warned us about, and you got DHS reports and all these crazy things happening. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm sorry I don't have like a Fox or a CNN or an MSNBC. I literally, after I read these, I Googled the CNN in 60 Minutes trying to find that video, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it on YouTube, Twitter. I think I checked Rumble and a few other like BitChute and LiveLeak and these other websites trying to find that video, and I couldn't find even that clip of it. So it's pretty clear that this was out there in the press, but I don't know why it's scrubbed. So, leaving it up to you guys. Maybe you guys can send me some links, and I just was a really bad person trying to find something for you. But again, you guys go ahead and Google it, check it out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Russia is, in fact, missing nuclear weapons, and that is absolutely horrifying. God bless America and protect the world. Have a great day.